I made a video previously on the reasons why the mission wrong side of the tracks is so difficult in San Andreas, and while looking into the mission script for that, I discovered that the mission was originally meant to have incremental difficulty, which can also be called scaling difficulty. This is difficulty which scales depending on how well you are doing. So if you fail a mission, the mission will get easier the next time you try it. In my wrong side of the tracks video, one of my first goals was to check the health of the Vagos in the mission. But when looking at the script, I noticed there was different health groups depending on the value of a certain variable. At this point, I was just looking at the decompiled code in Sunny Builder, so the name of the variable was missing. Thanks to Grove Street Games, we now have the source code for the main scripts of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. When looking at the source instead, we can see that the variable is called difficulty underscore S3 flag. The S3 part of this flag stands for Smoke 3, which is the name of wrong side of the tracks in the game script, as it's the third Big Smoke mission. So this flag is only for the difficulty in this mission. Next to the flag, we have a comment left by a Rockstar developer saying, "Do not reset this flag." And further in the code, we also have a comment left by a Rockstar developer saying, "Increment difficulty," next to this flag. Judging by the code, it looks like this flag is meant to increase in value every time you fail the mission. So the first time you play the mission, the value of the flag is 0. If you fail, the value will be 1. If you fail again, the value becomes 2. However, it doesn't actually work. See, this flag is a local variable, which means it's only local to this mission script. It only exists within this mission. As soon as you're not currently on this mission, the difficulty flag is completely scrapped. When you start the mission again after a fail, the value will always be at 0, as if you've never failed the mission before. Now, if the difficulty flag was a global variable, it'd be tracked even outside of the mission, which is how it should have been. I don't know if Rockstar just forgot to change the flag to a global variable or if they intentionally left it as a local variable. Chances are they scrapped the idea and left it as a local variable on purpose, but I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, they even left a comment next to the variable saying that it's not meant to be reset, but it happens anyway due to it being local to the mission script. Now, if we go back to the health groups for the Vagos, we can see that if the difficulty flag is set to a certain value, the health of the Vagos will be different. So when the value is 0, which is 0 fails, their health is 500. When the value is 1, which is 1 fail, their health is mixed, with one guy having 480 health, one having 500 health, and another having 450 health. If the flag is set to 2, they'll all have 450 health. When the value is 3, their health is 350. And when the value is greater than 3, their health is 300. So the more times you fail the wrong side of the tracks, the easier the mission would be. It would be at its easiest difficulty if you failed 4 times, making the health of the Vagos as low as 300 on your 4th and future attempts. While you'll never get the difficulty flag to change in normal gameplay because it's a local variable, as I said before, you can change it during the mission using an old GTA tool called Memory Hacker. Setting the flag to 4 causes the Vagos to have 300 health. I can verify this by changing the damage of the M4 to 100, then counting how many shots it would take to kill them. 100 times 3 is obviously 300, so it should take 3 shots to take 1 down. And it worked. If I set the flag back to 0, which is the difficulty we've always played at, it should take 5 shots, as 100 times 5 is 500. It does make the mission easier. With the difficulty at its easiest, you can usually kill the Vagos before they reach the first tunnel. As well as wrong side of the tracks, a difficulty flag also exists in 2 other missions in San Andreas. Big Smoke's next mission, Just Business, also contains a local difficulty variable. This mission involves a shootout at the downtown area and then a drive-by escape section throughout Los Santos, this time with Smoke driving and the player shooting. The difficulty variable in this mission seems to only have an effect on the bike section. The difficulty variable in this mission is called difficulty_S4 flag. Again, it's S4 as it's Big Smoke's 4th mission. However, as well as the difficulty flag, there's another variable called difficulty_S4 value. So according to the code, if the difficulty flag is greater than 1, the variable difficulty_S4 value should be 30. And if the difficulty flag is 1 or less, the difficulty_S4 value should be 92. So this just means instead of having to define a value every time for certain aspects of the mission, they can just insert difficulty_S4 value and it'll use either 30 or 92 depending on the value of the difficulty_S4 flag. So as far as I can see, the difficulty in this mission mainly affects the fire rate of the Russian gangsters. The opcode task_drive_by has several parameters, with this last value being the fire rate of the character doing the drive-by. As we can see here, the character Russian3_S4 has a fire rate value of 100 at the end here, but the character Russian2_S4 has the difficulty_S4 value in place of the fire rate value. As we covered a minute ago, the difficulty_S4 value is determined by the value of the difficulty_S4 flag. So if the difficulty_S4 flag value is 1 or less, the fire rate value will be 92. If the difficulty_S4 flag value is greater than 1, their fire rate is set to 30. So this just means a lot of the Russian gangsters would fire less often if you fail the mission more than twice. I've placed waypoints on the map where the enemies who are affected by the difficulty in this mission spawn. Once again, using the tool Memory Hacker, we can change the difficulty flag value while the mission is running. At the hardest difficulty, which is the only difficulty we've ever played at, if I just let Big Smoke drive and don't shoot any of the enemies, you usually die right around here. If I lower the difficulty by changing the flag to 2, which means the enemies fire even less, you can go a bit further, but it's not that big of a difference. Overall, this mission is pretty easy, even on PS2 with a controller. I don't think scaling difficulty was necessary here, and it makes very little difference if you ask me. The last mission which was meant to have scaling difficulty is Reuniting the Families, the second last mission in the first Los Santos chapter. This mission involves a shootout in a motel, which then leads to and ends with another chase section with the player once again shooting from a vehicle. The difficulty variable in this mission is called difficulty_F1 flag. This mission is called LA1 Fin 1 in the game's script because it's the first of the 2 final missions in the first Los Santos chapter. The mission after this is Green Saber, which is called LA1 Fin 2. Anyway, this is similar to the scaling difficulty in the last mission in that it only seems to affect the fire rate of cops during the chase sequence. It only affects 3 cops though, so it has little to no effect on the mission really. I've marked out where these cops spawn on the map. According to the code, if the difficulty flag is greater than 1, the fire rate will be reduced to 30 for 2 of the cops, and it will be reduced to 40 for the other cop. Otherwise, the fire rate value for all 3 cops will be 75 when the difficulty flag is at 1 or less, which is how we've always played. Unfortunately, testing if this really makes a difference isn't very practical. The difficulty on this mission affects so few cops that if you don't shoot, you'll die before you even run into a cop which has his fire rate affected by the difficulty setting. Well, actually, one of the 3 cops affected by difficulty spawns early in the chase. However, he is immediately killed off when this happens. So yeah, the difficulty only affects 2 cops in reality, and both of these spawn later on in the chase when it's likely too late to make much of a difference. Now, like I said, none of this difficulty stuff actually works in normal gameplay. because the flags for difficulty are all local to the mission scripts, and they are scrapped immediately when the player isn't on the mission. I'm pretty sure this was intentionally scrapped by Rockstar, and they didn't just forget to change the variables from being local to global. It seems like the idea was fully thought out in Wrong Side of the Tracks, was also implemented into Just Business, although it made very little difference in difficulty, and then it was used briefly when programming Reuniting the Families before Rockstar finally decided to scrap the idea. San Andreas was already a massive game, created in just 2 years, and Rockstar likely realized that scaling difficulty didn't have enough of an impact to make it worth their time. Scaling difficulty doesn't appear at any other point in the game's script, and it is only seen in the missions we've covered in this video, which all appear in the first Los Santos chapter. I don't believe Rockstar has attempted difficulty scaling or even difficulty settings in any GTA game since. This is an interesting look at just how ambitious they were with San Andreas, where they absolutely pushed the game to its limits. An interesting idea, but it never came to be. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoy GTA videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.